Damn you.
Um, anyway, I'm Shelby Clement. I own a social media management agency where we focus on organic social media for small business owners. I was in oil and gas for 8 years over there in Thibodaux, Louisiana. That's where I met my husband, had my babies, and then in 21 I launched SCM. And then I didn't launch my podcast until 2023, ultimately because you own that space, whereas social media, you don't own it. It could go away overnight. And so there's other avenues in order to build authority and all those things. And so the decision to do that is number one, I love to talk. And number two, it's just another avenue to build authority where I can have people come on and me interview them to get to know them better. And as you said, and looking at your questions that I saw before, is thinking back to that first episode that I launched, I was like, gosh, please, no one ever listens to that because I literally get sweaty armpits thinking about it because I didn't know what I was doing, right? I didn't know what people wanted to hear. I didn't know what I was going to say. I didn't know if I stuttered, if that mattered. Now I'm like, I really don't give I don't want to curse because this is college, but I don't really care.
Trust me, I cursed
Um,
in class.
okay. Now I just don't care. It's very raw, real, unfiltered. The bullshit you deal with, business and motherhood and all of it. I'm in the process of buying a business. I have a business that's multi six figures at this point. And so I talk about the good, bad, the ugly. And then the strategy behind that is who can I get in front of or who can I interview that aligns with me strategically on what business avenues I have going on. Or, I'm dabbling in the influencer space. I just got a really big brand deal with one of my favorite brands. And it came out of left field. Okay, well, how do I level that piece up? Who do I need to have on my podcast for that to grow? And so there's all these different strategies that go into it. And then it's just the more you do it, the better you get, the more you learn your community, and then you learn what they want to hear. So that's really kind of the journey of it. And it started out as damn good marketing because I actually originally started out as damn good content. And then I wanted it to go straight into marketing aspect because it had a live event. And I wanted those two pieces to be tied together. And then I made that change. We launched just the Shelby Clement podcast in January because I didn't want to be tied just to marketing. I feel like as the years have gone, I've evolved. I've built a business. I'm very good at marketing, but I also have two small kids. How am I navigating motherhood, being a wife, being an entrepreneur, going through an acquisition, finding my faith again, like all those things. And the more I share that on social media, the more people love it. And podcasting is just long form version of social media. So having that outlet is really good. So like that's kind of how it's evolved over time. And yeah, it's fun.
Okay, and since you're a marketing expert, obviously, talk about the importance of social media and the podcast as part of like a bigger entire plan of promoting your business and promoting. At this point, it's like promoting yourself too, because you are your business.
Yeah, for sure. So social media, if you own a business and you're not utilizing it, it doesn't matter if you have a brick and mortar, if you're online, if you're a mom and pop shop, if you're super old school and all you cared about was like radio, TV, billboards. If you are not utilizing social media, you will get left behind. Every single competitor that you have is utilizing social media. So they're going to own market share if you're not on it. And so the really cool thing that's happening right now with social media and podcasting and all of that is the authenticity that people are looking for, the vulnerability, the who is the person behind the brand, and using these platforms that are free to do that. So like you have a competitor most likely that's doing the exact same thing that you're doing. The only way to be different is by saying like I'm Shelby Clement, this is my non-negotiables, this is what I believe, this is how we run, this is why I am good at what I do. So we do a mixture of authority building, which is based on like what my knowledge, my experience, what are the failures. I truly believe in like airing out failures because it makes you human, it makes you more relatable. I We do a mix of vlogs. Come along with me as a mom of two that's just trying to figure out life, where I can be present with them, present for my husband, but also run a really successful business because my drive and determination really depends on, my business. And so it's just like a really big mixture. And so what we tell a lot of our clients is if you're not on social media, then you are literally doing a detrimental thing for your business. And that's the same thing with podcasting. I had a client the other day ask us, is it worth it, continuing to podcast? Podcast is a very slow growth, especially it's organic, it's slow. If you're not strategically aligning with people maybe that are one step ahead of you that maybe have bigger platforms, if you're not doing an email campaign with it as well as social media marketing campaign with it and getting it out there, then it is going to be a slow growth if you're not using SEO and all those things. And so what I told him is 100% it's worth it because you are building authority at a slower rate. And it's yours. It's not going anywhere. You own that. So like just like your email list. So yeah, I think if you own a business or you want a personal brand, because personal brands are taking the front seat of marketing now too. If you don't have a personal brand, if people don't know who the face is behind the brand or what you believe or your non-negotiables, you fall flat. You fall into the noise. And so what I like to tell people is be a disruptor. I'm not telling you to go out, air out your politics. I'm not telling you to go air out all these things if you don't want to, but like be strong in what you stand in and say it. Like, this is what I believe. This is what our business stands for. This is who we can help. And of course, people are going to unfollow. Of course, people are not going to work with you, but then you're going to meet the people that are forever fans of you that are going to constantly say your name, support you, tell other people, spend every dime. It doesn't matter if you're not selling a trash bag, they're going to buy it from you. And so you have to make that decision. Like, people are probably going to make fun of you. They're going to talk about you. They're going to do X, Y, Z, but they're going to talk about you anyway. So why not give them something to talk about? And I think with social media and podcasting, you have the ability to set the perception that you want someone to have of you. So I think that that's really cool too.
So, and I noticed I'll go through your podcast that you know your audience. Granted, I'll listen to it, and I'm
Yeah,
not typically your audience, but there's things I can get out of your
yeah,
podcast.
for sure.
But you even say at the beginning of your show, just like you, I'm a working mom. So bam, right there, you know who your audience is. So how do you keep that in mind as you put together your podcast, your topics and everything, who your audience is, and make sure you're speaking to them and serving them?
I would say, like, depending on the episode aspect of it, a lot of my podcasts and a lot of the It's Shelby Clement brand, which is my personal brand, is to motherhood strategically of working moms that are chasing a bigger God-given purpose that are scared to step out. Like, I know who that is, and that's really what falls with under the um umbrella of the podcast. And so when I'm strategically thinking about who I'm bringing on, it's more so people that are in motherhood, they're driven, they're an entrepreneur. I mean, they don't necessarily have to be a mom. It's just more so, are you driven? Do you know you have a God-given purpose? Are you willing to chase after it? Because the people that like that person most likely will like me if I get them into my community. Now, for the SCM brand aspect of things, because we just split everything, that I'm talking directly to men, women, oil and gas, small, big business, like every single one. But we strategically place that. I most likely won't speak about that on my podcast unless it's an ad that I'm running. And it's just like, I have a social media management agency that can help you, whether you're a small business, large business. I've done marketing for oil and gas. And if I can do it for them, I can do it for anybody. Like, though, that's like what I would target. But I don't necessarily put that on the podcast right now because that isn't my audience.
Sure. I think it was one of your earlier podcasts when you had Taylor O'Brien on, and you
Yep.
were discussing being different from others, not better, but maybe it was that same podcast or another one.
Hmm.
You're talking about that you were looking at what others were doing and saying, why do they have this success and I don't?
Yeah.
But you realize sort of, being yourself is what you are, and sort of like not competing against others, but competing against yourself being better every time. Talk about how you do that.
Yeah, for sure. So I've always grown up. One, my dad's always told me like you get one reputation. So if you turn shit, you're screwed. And then ultimately you don't really have competition. They're in the business world too. Clearly that's where I'm at today. This is not my office. But they're the only competition that you have is you. You should put your blinders on. Now we fall short to that, right? Because we're on social media all the time. And there's constantly we're over like getting we're over consuming things and constantly being thrown things, and you see all these perfection reels. And yes, guys, when I interviewed Taylor, that was like 2 years ago. I think that like my mindset was completely different than it is now, and it is easy still at this day and time to fall short of comparison to other people. But we also have to remember that like you're only seeing a highlight reel in someone's life when it comes to social media, and not everybody shows vulnerability. Like, I pride myself on saying you're going to get every aspect of Shelby. I've cried on the internet. I've literally told you this shit is hard. I've told you, holy crap, I just got the biggest brand deal of my life. Like, how did this? Like, I've told you every single thing and I've brought along on the journey, but that's just my brand. And I think that that's what has helped me evolve over the years. So I think that if y'all take anything from this, like, say, number one, you're your biggest competition. If there's people that you look at that you want to be like, that's one thing. You study the way that they podcast. Maybe it's the way they interview. Maybe it's the way they how they edit their vlogs, or maybe it's their messaging and storytelling, whatever it is. Okay, well, how can I evolve that in my own authentic voice and turn it into my style? Whereas it's not intimidating you. It's more so teaching you. And another thing I would tell you that I'm not ashamed to say is if people are drifting your mindset, say, why are they more successful than me? I've been doing what they're doing. Block them or hide it or mute it, because ultimately it doesn't matter. And when people find out that I've done that to them, I say it literally has nothing to do with you and has everything to do with me. I still love you as a human, but I can't see your stuff. And so I think if you set boundaries like that are super solid for you, then I mean the world is your oyster at
You
that
seem
point.
to pride yourself on being unfiltered and raw, but obviously you're organizing your
Mm-hmm.
podcast because a lot of them are just starting their podcast, and some of them are less organized than others, and you can tell.
Yeah.
So talk about how you organize it and maybe what part research goes into it, be it if you're doing a solo show or even if you have a guest on.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so strategically, so we really did a full rebrand in January, right? And so what I did was the first episode, I knew that I wanted to come back and introduce the rebrand as really raw. If you haven't listened to the first episode we dropped in January, guys, I would definitely go listen to that. If like maybe the guys might not like it, but I got really good feedback from everybody. It was just like my journey of where I got lost in December and where I was and how I refound everything. And then I had one of my friends, very close friends, interview me where I don't necessarily get interviewed, right? I normally do the interviewing. So she got to ask me questions that were so like nothing was off limits, is what I told her. Um, and then I basically from there was like, the strategy is this, guys. I don't put a lot of pressure on myself. It's whatever's happening in my life at that moment and what I want to share. And so after that, it was a solo episode. I think again that was talking about the nudes brand deal that I got, and not, if you don't know what nudes is, it's Nuuds. It's a clothing brand. It's not like nudes, okay? But I got this really big brand. If you know who it is, if not, you can look them up. But
I was going to
I
ask you
started
about that later.
yeah, I tell y'all about that journey, and then strategically right after that, I start interviewing. Well, there was one girl in between, but I start interviewing the other girls that are in the program. So the girl that started the program was next. Then today dropped one of the other girls. And what
So,
I'm doing for that strategically is I want to timestamp every one of their lives right now because it's a year program. So in 1 year, I will interview them again and say, like, did you accomplish what you thought you would in this program? Where are you now? How hard was it? What was that journey like? Because we're all content creators and we're just like living the journey of like figuring it out. And it'll be really cool to see. And then I like to put, typically what I do is I do a solo, a guest, a solo, a guest. So you have two guests, two solos, because your solos are building authority and your guests are getting you in front of other people. So when they get back, you have a lot more solos they can see. I find that a lot of my solos do a lot better than the guests, depending on obviously the guests. Even if I had a big name guest on my podcast in the past, it was still really what they like is they're there for me, right? And I think once you get that under your belt, you'll understand. I think what my biggest advice to all of you is don't overthink it. Show up to the mic. I never am scripted. I might have talking points, but if I'm scripted, I sound like a just not a good, you're not going to listen to it. Okay. If I get on and I have talking points, or if I'm just talking from the heart, like some of those were just guided, by me and obviously Jesus getting through it. But some of them are scripted. And then I also don't give my guests the questions prior to interviewing them. All I ask them is there any questions off limits that we cannot talk about? Or are you launching something soon that we need to tell them about? And we wait till the end. But typically, all of my questions are who are they? What was the hardships of getting there? What's a big failure? Tell us a journey. I mean, tell us a story that you've, experienced that you didn't think you'd overcome. What would you tell the younger version, you know, of you? Like, it's just like genuine, deep questions. And then, like, my questions come up as I conversate because I find if I have everything written down, I'm not paying attention to the last question I asked because I'm like, oh, well, here's the next question. And so that's just how I work. But I do know that, like, during an episode, I have a notebook and a pen. So if they say something and I think of a question, I write it down because I want to come back to that. Um, but I'm just more like go with the flow. But that has come with 2 years of podcasting. So I think that if you just know the guest that's coming on, if you are having a guest on your podcast, just research it. Get to know who that is so you can have the genuine questions ready. And then for you as a human, it can be, or you as a solo, it can be very nugget sized solo episodes. I've had solo episodes that were 10 minutes. I've had solo episodes that were 50 minutes. It really just depends on the type of information I was giving them.
Okay, and I'm going to actually jump ahead because I'm taking notes with what you're saying.
Yeah.
Talking about your guest, and two things about your guest. How do you choose them based on, what they can bring to your show, but also what they can bring to your brand? Say they have a big following, like Mr. O'Brien. He obviously went viral with the LSU women's basketball stuff that
Yeah,
he.
for sure.
So having him on there, you might be exposed to people that never saw you before. So
Yeah.
how do you use both of those things in choosing a
Yeah,
guest?
for sure. So I'm very protective of my guests. I don't necessarily, and I've gotten even more strict of who can come on the podcast at this point. Um, it goes far beyond follower count to me at this point. It is who strategically is their actual guest, right? I mean, who is their actual community? Are they converting? Because at this point in life, like we have social media where people can buy every single thing. They can buy their followers, their engagement, their likes, all that. So is first off, is it real? Second, do we align in a lot of things that we believe? Because your people, if they don't believe remotely what I believe, then they're not going to love every episode or even similar to, what I put out because it's very Christian based. It's very, very raw. I'm very to the point. I do not bullshit. I do not run circles. I tell you straight how it is. So like that has to, come in line with that too. Also, too, I look at that guest and I'm like, how can we strategically partner together after this if it works really well? And so I really just study who they are, and then I study who their audience is, and I typically find them. If they pitch me to be on my podcast, unless it's someone that like I end up like loving, there it's a typical no. Um, these are people that I allow on my show at this point is people that maybe have been recommended to me or that I found and stumbled upon because again, it goes back to my reputation. My reputation is everything to me. And so if I don't protect that, then I have nothing. So when I do the research for it, it really just comes from if I've met you in person. So all the girls from the nudes campaign I've met in person, or the one that I just had on Jesse Jarvis. If y'all haven't listened to that one, that one's really good. She grew up on they have an actual legit ranch, and I think it's Idaho or Utah, one of them. And so, but she is a businesswoman. So, like, it really just goes to can I serve her audience too? And her audience are small business owners, and SCM serves small business owners. So, all the facets of my brand, how can I help their community is really what I think about it too strategically.
Okay, and not your podcast because I didn't come across it in the few episodes I listened to. But in a lot of podcasts, when you select a guest, they may have the knowledge and all the information in the world, but either they ramble or they give one-word answers, or how do you pull the answers out of them if you need to, or how do you rein them back in if you have to? Have you ever had to deal with that?
I haven't really had to deal with that on a lot. But what I do is so everything that we record can be edited. So if it's very long-winded and there's a break, we cut it. I don't edit a lot of my stuff. I really haven't had this issue. Except like if they're very short, one worded, then I'm really good at actually getting more out of them. So I'll be like, okay, well, tell me more about, starting your business. Like, have you ever failed? Yes. And that's all they gave me. I'd be like, okay, well, can you tell us a little bit more? Like, can you remember that maybe that day where you were or what you were doing or what that, caused or how did you feel? And so I think that really goes in strategically with knowing who you're interviewing to make sure that it's good conversation and good flow. Because a lot of my podcasts have been great people that I've known and it's been great. I just like because I do my research. So my biggest, I guess my answer to that would be just make sure you do your research on who you're interviewing.
Okay. And talk about the consistency of putting out your podcast, putting out other social media posts, of putting content out there and to serve your people or at least to keep them following you where if you took a break. And with that, have you ever missed a podcast and had people like checking in on you or angry or upset or worried about you?
So we do one weekly, and I've done that since the start, except in December we cut it short. I want to say like 2 weeks prior to the new year, but I let them know. Like I told them in my episode, like this is my last episode for the year. I'll see y'all January 1 or whatever day it was. So they knew. And then I also went to social media and told them too, like, hey, I'm taking a break. I'm actually deleting social media off my phone. I'm taking a break from social, podcasting, all of it. I want to spend time with my family. So me telling them that I think gave more credibility to me because they knew, and they respected it. So they were fine. And then for the frequency aspect of it, I knew I needed it and I wanted it for content, right? Because obviously content online obviously it's a volume game. I mean, it's still quality, but it's a volume. And so like think about it like this. A podcast episode is anywhere from 10 minutes to 50 minutes. We probably can get about 8 different clips, if not more, out of them, interesting clips out of them. So that's 8 days over a course of a month. All of it is long form, so that goes on YouTube. So we have a YouTube video going out once a week. We have all those short clips bursting out too. On top of the 6 to 8 clips we do, we always do what I call a hype clip, which is not really hype. Like the one I posted today wasn't really hype, it's more emotional, but it's literally to introduce the guest that's coming on. And basically, how we strategically do that is I studied other podcasters and studied how they announced people. And I got my editor to say, like, I want you to find the most interesting pieces, whether we're leaving them on a cliffhanger or we're like making a sound or we're doing whatever. And I want you to mash that up because I want it to intrigue people so much that they're like, wait, I need to listen to this episode. So it all comes down to that. That's why I said once a week, but we've had people that have done, twice a month. We've done had people do multiple times a week. It just really depends on your bandwidth. If you love it, it's just once a week. It's really not that big a deal. And if you love talking, like you could do that. As far as the volume goes, for social, depending on your goals. Like if you are, maybe just a, small business owner that has a really great referral system and you've been around forever and people know who you are, I still would recommend you posting 3 days a week because that's still going to build brand awareness. If they happen to stumble upon your page, whether it's Instagram or Facebook or whatever it is that you're doing, they'll be able to be, educated with what you do and what you say, right? You're setting yourself up as an authority, you're making yourself human and relatable, and you're still telling them what you do. And then if you have a more aggressive goal like me, I mean, I post 7 days a week, multiple times a day, sometimes on stories. So it really just depends on first how fast you want to grow. Do you have relevant information that's going to go out there? Are you going to make the time for it? Because you can't just do it for 1 month and then stop. You literally have to continue to do it because consistency is the goal here. It's not just like one and done. When you work with SCM, you either sign a 6 month contract or a year contract. And that's all the options you got because it takes that much time, especially if you're organically building. So it really just depends on your goals that you have. That's what I would say.
Yeah, and with the consistency, could you talk a little bit about how consistency is important in order to maintain your current audience and to build your audience? Whereas if
Yeah.
you're not consistent with it, they don't ever know when or where to find you.
Yeah, for sure. So first off, if you're not consistent with it, they don't trust you. That's like the biggest thing. And if they don't trust you, they're not buying from you. So you might as well hang it up and go work at Costco. Like that's literally what I joke about all the time. Like when I'm burnt out, I'm like, I'm going to work at Costco. It's a lot. What I'm going to tell you is I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Creating content, being consistent, it's a lot. It doesn't matter if you're having a good day. It does not matter if you're having a bad day. If your goals are chasing your God-given purpose and you want to be a content creator, you want to open a business, you want to be the forefront of someone's brain, you have to be consistent, right? And so it builds that trust to where they feel like they know you. And like the biggest compliment I get is when a person meets me in real life and they've never met me before, they say you are the exact same human being you're online as you are offline. And I want them to be able to walk up to me and be like, hey, Shelby, like, how are you? How are the boys? Like, I want them to know me. That is the point, depending on what type of brand you're trying to build. And so consistency builds trust, trust builds conversion. And ultimately, I think that really says it all. Like, there's really nothing else besides if you can't be consistent, meaning you have to be consistent. I've been consistent for 4.5 years on social media. The first break I took was where my team wasn't controlling it and I wasn't still like posting was 2 weeks for Christmas. I was done. I was off. I was burnt out. I was ready not to come back. And so I gave myself that. And you know what? People respected me more, but I had built my brand over 4.5 years and they knew. And then that's when like the brand deal came. That's when all these things came because I took a break because I built such a great presence. And then honestly, I was posting consistently multiple times a day or just every day that it doesn't get old, guys. It just recycles. And so they may not see when it posted that day, but they will see it.
Okay. And I noticed in your podcast, and I want you to talk about, why you do this and how important it is, which I've talked to them about already, is at the beginning of your podcast, you have a pre-recorded sort of intro to what your podcast is about, because you don't know
Yep.
when people are jumping into your podcast, what episode. Then you have your theme music, which people, they'll hear, they associate with you. And then you immediately go into introducing either your topic or your guest. And then even with your outro, you have the outro music. What
Yeah.
elements of your podcast, are people expecting, and why do you use those elements?
Um, I think it's just like obviously consistency with like repetition. Is that the right word? I think whatever. Let's go
Yes.
with it. It will get ingrained in their brain that they're always going to say Shelby's podcast is always going to be raw, real, honest. I like upbeat music because I'm an upbeat person. Doesn't matter. And if they pull certain it's all strategic, right? So if they pull the hype clip like today's and it was more emotional and raw and real, like emotional leaning, they're gonna have emotional music. But the key elements in those are just like repetition of like what I want people to hear every single episode. And so it starts out always as, hey, this is Shelby Clement. I'm gonna interview thank you, Jesse, for being to the episode. Can you tell people a little bit about you? It's just a little bit about them because I want to get into the nitty-gritty of like their life and their business and all that. So I think that answered your question.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
that's great. And with your podcast, some of the episodes were like 10 minutes long, some of them were over an hour long. And I was trying to have them sort of imagine when their people would be listening to the podcast, if it's driving to work or at a workout.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, and this may not apply to you because I did see yours are sort of all over the place with time, but is there a sweet spot, or what do you imagine your audience is doing when they're listening to it, when they're allowing you into their life for a certain amount of time?
Yeah, for sure. My audience most likely is in the car or they're at work or they're walking. So the three things that they're doing when they're listening, just because I know they're busy moms. They're literally busy. So the only time, and they listen to me on 2X and I already talk very fast. So like they want that to be done really quickly because they want to hear it, right? I would say I can tell when I'm interviewing someone, this is not going to be longer than 20 minutes because it could go back to that question that you had. They're short winded. They don't want to be here long. Like, I just need to get down to the nitty gritty. That's a gut thing, but that's a who I am kind of person. I'm really good at gauging that where I can say, okay, well, last question. This is all I got for you. This is a great episode, whatever. Or there's people that have been there for an hour and I'm like, holy crap. Like, I normally try to keep it at an hour at this point because I'm like, if it goes over, we'll just do a part two, because I know some people are not. I don't listen to like a 2 hour podcast. And ultimately, the person I'm to is like the old me, AKA meaning like the yesterday me, not like 5 years ago me. Um, so I think that that's just me gauging it intuitionally. Like, what do I think that this is going to be? And I don't give myself rules because I'm not as strict probably as any other podcast guy or girl that's come and spoke to y'all. I don't want to overwhelm myself with I have to do this and it has to be 30 minutes. If I get on the mic and I speak and I hit all my points and it's 10 minutes, solid. That means it was good because that means my people aren't going to get just the fluff. They're getting the real stuff and they're in and out. If it's an hour, they're staying because I've teased it so much strategically saying like, y'all, I go down deep into like what I was struggling with, why I wanted to not come back, why I wanted to burn it all the way down in December. Like I tell you everything. And when I do that, the amount of text messages I got, DMs I got when that episode launched was sick. And so it really just depends on the strategy behind also advertising about the podcast that you have. So like it all just works together. So I don't think it necessarily depends on like how long it is because you could easily say in your messaging like, y'all, this is a long one, but it was a good one, or this was quick, but she got us everything we needed and so much more in a 20-minute episode because I know you're busy, mamas. Like it just really depends on how you message things.
Okay. Next question is sort of about analytics, and obviously you use your analytics. The first question is about the length of your podcast. Is there a sweet spot that you notice where people drop off, or shorter podcasts, or a range where you get more listeners?
My most listened people, which actually shocked me a little bit, this time around, I'll just say because I just looked at my analytics the other day, um, are my solo episodes. They want to hear just from me. And they do really well. And the downloads have steadily increased, which have been awesome to see too. So I would say probably those I need to do more, which I didn't have any coming out anytime soon. So I did put one in for the week after next for me to go back and do a solo just because I've been so busy with everything in my life that I'm like, I just need to get ahead with the podcast that we have going out. That I didn't necessarily think about inserting solos in there, but definitely my solos are the best ones that get downloads.
Sure. I want to come back to analytics, but you're talking about your solo episodes. and the ones where you have guests on. And obviously you have a talent. Not everybody has a talent where they can talk for an hour and still
Yeah.
interesting. So talk about the difficulties, with each style that you do, since you do both styles, solo versus doing one with a guest.
The difficulty is you're just talking to yourself and you sound like a dum dum and you question every single thing that you said. And every single time that I stop recording, I say, did that make sense? And I could go back in like me and my editor's text thread and just be like, tell me if that was shitty, because I will literally just go re-record it. And every time she goes, I don't know why you say this, because every single one is good. But there's been multiple times, guys, that I've sat down to hit record and I've literally recorded 10 minutes and I'm like, this is so effing dumb. And I literally delete it and I walk away and I come back in a day or 30 minutes or an hour and I do it again. If it feels too scripted, because there were times that I was strategically trying to sell into the event that I had last year, then I get overwhelmed because I forget a word. Like, right when you're thinking of a scripted podcast, you're like, oh, shoot, I literally forgot this entire section that I was supposed to say. Damn, like she's gonna have to really edit this. People are gonna know. Then I get in my head. But that would say would be the biggest thing. The biggest thing with guests would be just their technical issues, if they had any. I haven't really had any bad guests to where, oh no, I lied. They did have this one girl that, even though we told him that it was on video, we didn't end up launching this podcast episode because it was not great. Her bed was unmade in the back and her bathroom door was like open. And so it was just like a lot of no. And then like that interview did not go as I thought it would. And so we just didn't run it. So that would probably be the one that never ran. And then yeah, the biggest hiccup is just me in my own head, because I get in my own head a lot.
In the broader sense, talk about the importance of looking at analytics, be it in your social media or whatever, and determining who your audience is and what works and what doesn't work.
Oh, this is really good. Okay, so this is what I tell a lot of people. First off, don't get hooked up on analytics. Analytics, knowledge is power, right? And so if you can understand your analytics without saying like this was donkey trash and like whatever, this didn't do well, I will tell you right now, because I know it to a T. Anything that's trending and you like jump on the bandwagon because you're like, this is trending and I can be cute and I can do it. Like whether you dance or whether you just put like a cute little quote or like whatever it is that you do, those probably will outperform. Why? Because they're already trending. Okay, right? It's not being creative. You're not thinking outside of the box, but you know, if you want an increase in things, you do that, right? But if your business doesn't serve the people that you're going to get an influx of that from, don't do it. What we've also noticed is that like a vlog style, maybe like a longer vlog or like a talking head, what we say is like talking to camera, those are not going to perform as well. One, people are going to see it. That's building trust though and credibility. And in our group text yesterday, we had one girl that was all in her own head and sad because those aren't doing well for her brand. And we were telling her like this is what's building your trust and your credibility. And so just understanding what type of content is actually connecting you on another level, and saying like my analytics are going to be garbage, but I know based on DMs or I know based on people just coming up to me and saying, Shelby, I love what you're doing on social media right now. I love that you're bringing us along on the journey. I'm like, why you didn't like it? But like they saw it. So like me strategically knowing what types of content perform the best and how they're going to perform is really going to help me align with like what I'm doing. Um, I would say analytics are powerful to know, but I wouldn't base them off of things that go viral. I wouldn't base them off of likes and comments. I would base them off always shares and saves, because they share it for a reason. So maybe they're sharing it to themselves, maybe they're sharing it to someone else because it was relatable to them. Maybe they were sharing it to their stories because it was like something, or maybe they're saving it because they're coming back to it later to really just, maybe it's a recipe, maybe it's a fashion, maybe it's like whatever it is. Why are they saving it? And then analyzing, what did you do in that video or that carousel or that static post that's wanting them to send it or to save it. For example, we had a client that did pelvic floor health out of Michigan, and I would have never thought this. One of her biggest pieces of content that was posted was a static post. It had a solid background and it just had words. First off, I would have put a lot of money that would not have gone mega viral, and it did. And then we've seen carousels do the same thing. So it really just depends on the person and the audience. And we said, okay, well, how can we mimic that post? What was it talking about? So now if it was talking about a mom peeing on herself as she's jumping on a trampoline, but it was just in a graphic, how can we transfer that into a carousel? And then how can we transfer that into an actual reel? Now let's take all of those analytics and put them against each other and say this consumer actually just likes static posts that are very informative. They don't care about a reel, they don't care about music, they don't care about a carousel. And so like that is what I mean when I say like use your analytics as power to what you produce. Like I know right now, especially on the journey to being more of a content creator and just like freely doing thing on my personal brand, of course I can do a trend. They've all gone mega viral. The saves, the shares have been insane. The growth I've seen in a month has been insane. And then you go see my vlog style that is like nothing, really. But I know that I need to mix those strategically because I'm taking someone else's ideas. Y'all, that's literally what a trending post is. That's you're taking someone else's idea and you're putting it as your own and it happened to fall in the algorithm. Where when they land on your page, the only reason they're following you is because they can actually see who you are. And that is through the vlogs, through the come alongs with me, through the get ready with me, like, you know, the photo dumps, whatever it is that you're doing. So I hope that answered. That was very long winded.
No, that was good. And, how do you use hashtags and mentions in order to promote through social media and other places?
Okay, so we actually don't necessarily use, I mean, I do a little bit for my brand, but for all of our other brands that we do social media for, we use SEO instead of hashtags. We do the brackets just with the words, the same words as the hashtags, but y'all, it's a search engine, so it really doesn't matter. You find what was relevant to what you're doing. So like if you're just like a small town coffee shop, then you want to put Thibodeau, right? You want to put coffee shop. You want to find the things that are relevant that people may look up and say like coffee shop Thibodeau, you know? The thing it depends on like what that is about. So like yesterday I posted a reel that was about my second child and I literally hashtag second child problems because like moms know it's motherhood, it's humor. And so it really just depends specifically on what it is in that post that you want to get the attention of.
And doing this successfully for as long as you have and growing it, I'm sure you developed some good habits in order to stay on track with this. And there's probably some tools that you use that really help you along the way. Can you talk about this?
Yeah, so I am a procrastinator, truly. I'm really good at that. But I'm really good at under pressure. So, but I've built basically how I've built my systems is I have a team and they can't do their job unless I do my job. And so I try to batch create as much as I can. If I'm sitting down, that's what I would recommend to you guys. A tool that's a great tool. If you could literally say, like, my next three podcast episodes are going to be about this, 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 or I'm going to have these guests. Like I've done a podcast batch day where I have guests come in from like 10, 11, 12, 1, 2. I've done like 8 podcasts in a row and it'll last me 2 months. Um, Looking at it strategically of like time is money, right? And so understanding where you can put those things into your life. Um, Tools we also use is Captivate. It blasts out to everybody. That's just the software that will blast it out to, you know, Apple, Spotify, any of those things. And then I also use Zencaster to record. I don't do Zoom. I use Zencaster because Zencaster is just like Riverside as well. It's a podcasting platform. It's just like Zoom, but Zoom, you know, if I lose internet or you lose internet, you can't hear me. Whereas on Zencaster, it is based on your internet alone. So like my internet and then the guest internet. So like if I can't hear them for a second, it's still recording. So we still can keep going. So I found that that's really valuable. It just really is how bad do you want it? Because it is a slow growth. It is very strategic. You have to understand the ins and outs of podcasting. And you have to want to do it because it's time consuming, especially if you're editing it yourself.
Okay, and I only have two more questions before I'll let them ask some questions.
Yeah.
The next one is talk about you just recently became the ambassador for that brand and not only what it means to you personally in a bigger sense, but
Yeah.
what does it mean in a business sense, as in promoting yourself and having that relationship and what you expect it's going to build for you.
Oh, it's gonna change my life. And
Talk
not
about
just
the
saying
brand
that.
a little bit more because I don't know if we really got to it.
Yeah. Wait, say it again.
I talk about the brand a little bit more, the new brand a little bit more.
Yeah, I got you. Okay, so if y'all don't know, ladies in there, guys, if you have girlfriends or whatever, this brand is probably hands down the best brand I've ever put my hands on. I was a fan of them before they actually launched. She was an influencer first. And what I love about her, her name is Daryl Ann Dinner. And what I love about her is she's the realest human being. She broke the norm online. You have a world of influencers, you have people that are just putting on this fake facade, whatever. But she was like the epiphany of the realness behind motherhood, business, living her life. Like she would tell us everything, right? So she built trust with us. She's been doing influencing for 10 years, since 2015. And then in 21, she said, you know what? I've been an influencer and no clothes fit me right. After having a baby, after gaining a lot of weight or losing weight, they're hugging me in places that girls just don't feel confident in, right? And she's done this for so long because she was getting brand deals with clothing lines. And she was like, well, what if we just start our own like clothing brand? And her husband was like, sure, whatever. They went all in. They had all these failures that happened. They launched, and it's like a 9-figure business now. It's basically focused on the basics wardrobe of making women feel confident in their own skin by clothing. And it really is like, unless you actually touch it and feel it and put it on your body, you're not going to understand it because you're going to be like, Shelby, like this could be any other brand. But for to watch her launch a business with 50,000 units on day one and sell out in 7 minutes, and then every launch that she launches still to this day, 4 years in, 5 years in, every single launches, sells out. And to have a brand do that is admirable, especially if you're in a world of like entrepreneurship and business and marketing in general. Because, and I'm gonna tell you why, you don't have to just be in clothing. What I'm so excited about with this mentorship, it's a mentorship, is to learn her brain, her moves. I am about to acquire a business. I own a business, the importance of marketing, the importance of connections. She has 2.2 million followers. She knows all of these founders of all of these brands. The business that I can't mention that I'm buying, it literally is going to work hand in hand, that the connections that I will get in front of are just going to be life changing. Um, so with all that to go to show is like, if you follow your heart and you show up real, raw, and authentic, you can build a very successful life, just like she did, just like I've done, because people trust her. And so people trust me. And how I got this brand deal is they found me. They picked 10 women of that were just authentic and that tag their brand and that genuinely love their brand. They have people in it with 230,000 followers all the way down to 1,000 followers. We're the only 10 women in the United States, or actually internationally, that have a 20% off code that people can use. Like her family doesn't even have it. We get to make commission, and then at the end of this year, I get to make a actual piece of clothing that'll have my name on it, that will get sold, and I will get obviously a share of that. And so over the year, I'm going to learn so much more about business, about marketing, about branding. And so I just think that it's just so cool. There's just so much to tell you about that aspect of it. I have an episode on that, guys, of how I became a nudist. That's what they call it. It's not like naked on the internet. It's literally, that's their brand. If y'all wanted to check that out too.
Okay, and I'm glad we're getting you in here before you really blow up and you want to have time with us little people. Now,
I'll always have time for y'all. It's no big deal.
you mentioned your team, and talk about what your team and what they do now and how you started, and if you had a team and what it evolved into.
Oh, yeah, that's so fun. Okay, so thinking back to when I did this in 2021, I lived in Thibodeau. My team consisted of me and actually an intern that was from Nichols, in my guest bedroom upstairs in our house. And I quit my corporate job without contracts, without anything. It was just like, I thought, because that's just like the type of person I am, which is so naive. Don't listen to this advice. I thought people gave me their word and they were going to stay and it was going to be gravy, right? So I was like, look, babe, like I literally did an Excel document and I showed like what obviously he's like, let me back up. My husband said, you can do this if you can match your salary. And I was like, cool, done. Because we both contribute all the things. And so I did this like Excel document. I'm not good at Excel at all. I literally just wrote out the people that I was helping that month. And I was like, look, like, whatever. And I got my first employee probably like 6 months after, because it blew up. And then when I moved to Covington, I didn't have a full-time employee anymore because I got scared. So I let her go. I still had the intern I had. And then when I moved here, I finally hired a manager. Those they're not we've evolved over the years. I've have SOPs in place now, and now I have a team of 15. And it's amazing. Like we have our full-time girls, we have, our part-time people. I have a girl in Nigeria, I have one in Pakistan, I have one in Australia, and I have a boy in Pakistan. And then I have a lot of local people as well. So it's evolved really well. And I will say, like, if you're starting a business, the importance of an SOP is a standard operating procedure. I did not respect enough when I started, but now everything is, what does the SOP say? And that's how I can step away and actually buy another business, is because we have so many of those in place. I have a great team. I have a podcasting team. I have an SCM team. I have a new team for the acquisition that's going through. We have teams for everything because you can't do everything. And what I tell my girls is, you are ultimately hiring to replace you. So as my girls move up, I hired them to replace me, right? So they have to be good and they have to be better than me. And so, like, I don't get intimidated. So, like, I literally will say, like, if you're good at your job, I'm going to help you grow and I'm going to mentor you. Because ultimately they're going to be the face of my brand, because I'm now getting pulled somewhere else. And so if they're not good and they're not going to represent the brand good, then my reputation goes to trash, right? So there's just so much that goes into building a team, and I'm just grateful for the one I have now.
Any other questions? Introduce yourself then, and come to talk about it because I don't know how much you get, but introduce yourself and ask your
Okay.
question.
Hi, I'm Madison Jordan. I'm a junior PR major. Let's see, I have like 10 million questions.
Yeah,
Um, my first one would probably be, I heard you talk about how you help manage the social media for a business in Michigan. So how do you manage to like control, like not so much control, but like help guide the content that they're making with not being there and doing the content yourself? I've been kind of stressed about this because my boyfriend's in the military, and so I'm worried about like, oh my gosh, how am I gonna have a job if I'm moving constantly?
yeah, for sure.
So I feel like that right there, I was like, wait, like I need to know more.
Yeah, so we don't allow them to create the content at all. And we have multiple people outside. So basically when they sign on with me, I'm a psychopath. And I'm very protective of their brand. So basically what we do is we have them record. So if they're which a lot of our clients, either they love or hate it, but they do it anyway, is they do face to camera videos, or they set up a phone, or whatever it is. And we tell them to dump it into the Google Drive that we have with them, and then we create the content based on that. We give them the guidance. So we'll say, like, for example, she's a pelvic floor therapist. Okay. I was able to give her the trampoline idea because the trampoline idea was me. Okay. I was jumping on the trampoline with my kids. I had two children. Obviously, you know what happens next. And so I was like, okay, Lauren, like, you need to create a video on this. Like, I need you to be wiping down the weights in your clinic while you're giving the story. So, like, what we've learned is the more that you're doing in the video, the more that they're going to watch it because they're intrigued about what you're doing, whether that's cooking dinner, whether it's folding laundry, whether it's doing your makeup, whether that's why the get ready with me or get unready with me has blown up so much because people want to see all of it, right? So, for example, I would tell your clients, like, you're going to send me videos on these topics, or you're going to send me photos on these, and then it's your job to make it good. And so, we give them all the tips that we can, film this way, or get a tripod, or do this. And a lot of our clients, if they're spending this kind of money, they definitely take our advice and they definitely do what they need to do to get it done for us.
Anybody else have a question?
If not,
You can ask it now, you got a million.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so for your personal brand, I have been like just like for fun views, like posting on TikTok, like not so I was being really consistent, stop being consistent because I keep running out of ideas. And like
For sure.
and I feel like it's definitely hard to stay on trend as a Christian because a lot of the trends are not very Christian based.
For
How
sure. For sure.
do you manage to keep like your brand of fulfilling a God-given purpose while also still staying on trend and keeping up with ideas and not running out of content.
Okay, you're never gonna run out of content because you, my girl, are your content. Like, everything you do is content. So, like, you could even do like micro pieces of content, like my The other day I did like my 4:30 to 7 before my 8 to 5. Like literally, what does that look like in the morning? Like those like little things. Or it's like maybe just cooking a meal with you or your skincare routine or like get dressed with me today and it's just like your outfit and it's cutie, right? I don't do trends. I just started doing trends. I was actually really against trends because let me tell you why. When I first started, I did the whole dancing thing, pointing and dancing because the gurus told me. And nothing was changing. I wasn't growing. I wasn't nothing. And I remember asking a girl, I had 300 followers. I was making over six figures at this point. And I remember asking this girl, she had 50,000 followers. And I was like, how do you have so many followers? Like I'm making money, but I only have 300 followers. Well, Vaughn, she goes, how are you making money? And right there in my brain was, she's only grown because she's done trending things. People aren't really here. They're not converting. They just maybe followed her once and that's it. Ever since then, me and a group of friends got together and we asked each other questions. And we had literally a water bottle and we had our phone front camera facing us and we just started talking and we would chop that up into content. And someone asked me a question. I remember it like it was yesterday. Asked me a question like, what's the ROI of organic social media? And that literally lights a fire under my butt. And I went off and I was like, this is what this is. This is how much it costs. This is why we do blah, 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 like all this. Like, you're not going to get an ROI from this. And the moment I posted that online, that went viral. And people were like, we like this content. We like Shelby straight up authority, telling it how it is. And so you have to find your sweet spot, and every single one of you have enough content. Like there's not, you are walking brands, right? You can do just B-roll outside and then put words over it like I did the other day. Like I don't think I used it, but it was something like, I ask God all the time why I'm overwhelmed and whatever. And he told me stop trying to do my job. Like that's trending very big. Or I heard somebody, like another trend that's going on right now is you might have seen someone say it, but like I'll always say, like, I heard someone say, and then I put it in quotes and I'll say, like, that hit me in my gut because it's something I truly believe, but it's a trend. But if anything, I would say vlog style, honey. It's going to get lower views and engagement, but it's building a brand that's so far bigger than the instantaneous result that everybody wants right now.
All right. Well, I want to thank you for your time.
Absolutely.
So, but thank you, and I appreciate it. And I'll send you a link to the video if you want it for any reason. So,
okay, perfect. Thank you so much, guys. Thanks for having me. Have a good day.
thank you. You too. Turn off things. Stop recording. Okay, so about your next, it's still recording. Hold on. Oh, go away. There it is. Okay, so for your next podcast, I want you to do some research. Obviously, I can't get into the lecture for research, but I did put a lot of research stuff on.